Hello everybody, just going to be going through a little bit of multiplication in orders of numbers of 10 or 100 or 1,000 and things like this. Multiplication. So, whenever you multiply a number by 10, obviously the number will get bigger, same as if you multiply it by 100 or by 1,000. And the key thing to remember is where the decimal place will go. So if I have the number 6, and I multiply that by 10, it becomes 60. And what hopefully you'll notice is that normally 6 looks like this, but when I've multiplied it by 10, the decimal place has got over here. It has moved from where it was in the middle to where it was at the end. And likewise, if you multiply 6 by 100, it will move a couple times. It will go from what would normally be 6.0 to 600, and at the back it has moved 2 places to the right. When you multiply, the decimal will go to the right, and that's what makes numbers bigger. The key thing to remember is when you've multiplied it by 100, 100 has got 2 zeros, and therefore the decimal place has moved 2 times. When you've multiplied it by 10, it has only moved 1 place because there is only 1 zero. So there's a direct relationship. Similarly, if I was going to do 6 times 1,000, you should be able to recognize that it's got 3 zeros, which means the decimal place would move 3 times. So it would go from 6.0 to 1, 2, 3. That's where my decimal place is. And in these gaps, in these loops, I'll put in zeros to fill the gaps. You can't just leave it blank. If you leave it blank, 6 times 1,000 is still 6. That's not going to be right. So in these little loops, you put your zeros. Now let's actually test this out with some questions. So 3.67 times 1,000. In 1,000, we've got 3 zeros. So therefore 3.67, where the dot was between the 3 and the 6, I'm now going to move it 3 times to the right. 1, 2, 3. And then I'd put a 0 there, and my dot is at the end, so my answer is 3,670. For 95.34 times 10, there's only 1 0, and therefore the decimal place only moves 1 time. It was in between the 5 and the 3, so I've left a little bit of a bigger gap, and I move it 1 across 953.4. I'll just write it out a little bit neater. 0.08 times 100. Count the zeros. 1, 2, and therefore the decimal was in between the first 2 zeros, but now I'm going to move it 2. 1, 2. So it's at the back there. That number is called 8. Now over to this question. 0.35 times 1,000. 1, 2, 3. It's going to move 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 0 there. That equals 350. Next one. 0.005 times a million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. So that means we're going to move it 6 times. So there's 0.05, and my dot was normally here. So I'm going to move 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I've got a few little loops here, so I've got to fill those gaps. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 5 and 3 zeros. That equals 5,000. And the last one, 643.03 times a million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros, which means the decimal place will move 6 times. 643.03. The dot was here. I'll move 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll put the zeros in the gaps. And now my number, as you can see, is very big. 643,030 and then 000. So it's 643 million and 30,000. And I'm just putting little commas to separate every three numerals, so it's a little bit easier to read. And there we go. That's how to multiply by numbers in order of 10. So 10, 100,000, million. Doesn't matter how many zeros there are, that's how many places you'll move to the right when you are multiplying. Thank you so much for your time. Leave any questions in the comments below.